Hey friends.
Hi everyone. Welcome back to another episode of
Wicked Mysterious.
Katie makes us say this together.
We have to.
I love it. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Katie, and this is episode number 2.
Yay.
Yay, we're back.
We're back. How was your week?
It was nice. How about yours?
It was good.
It was cold.
It was cold.
Yep, it felt like winter.
Yes.
Summer really.
It was shocking to the system.
Yeah, summer booted out real quick.
Just yeeted.
Yeah,
yeeted right
itself right out.
I hate this. I'm all for fall, but usually it's a nice
That's
ease
what
into
I
it.
keep telling people. Everybody loves fall. It's like pretty soon there's going to be no fall. Like our seasons are not the same.
I agree.
So
we have Lala here with us.
Lala is so distractive. She's so fat and cute. And
She's
just
so
sitting.
fat. She's so fat. She looks like a big round
I can't
blob.
focus with a cat like this in front of me.
Yeah, we're going to have to kick her off your notes because she's just taking up a lot of space here. Okay, so you have a story for us this week.
I do. Yes, I do. About a gentleman named Stephen Kubacki. Ooh. You don't know about this story?
I don't. I know the name, and I know it's a disappearance of some sort, but that's all I know.
Cool. I heard there's a very similar disappearance to him. I'd like to look into it. I think that they disappeared from New York, also skiing.
Yes.
Or they were like from Canada originally, but ended up going to New York and went missing. So yeah, I want to look into that. Maybe that'll be another episode.
This one, I think I was confused because I thought he went missing in Mass and came back in Mass or something like that. But he's just from Mass, right?
Right. Yes, he's just from Massachusetts. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So our man Stephen Kubacki here was born November 8th, 1954, and that makes him a Scorpio, which I'm a Scorpio, so I'm maybe that was why I was partial to this one, first thing off the bat. He was born in Deerfield, Mass, and grew up there his whole life. At his birth, his mom actually was suffering from some severe pneumonia, and sadly, he went unheld for 6 entire weeks.
That's very sad.
Yes.
Oh, your face looks so sad.
Babies need their mamas,
Poor Stephen.
That skin to skin. It's so important, we know now, Anyway, he grew up, he was super smart, and his parents were the typical blue-collar, workers, the factory workers, actually, and it was clear that Stephen was going to take his own path. He was going to be a college man. He loved the outdoors and skiing, backpacking, hiking, and rock climbing, and especially Dungeons and Dragons.
Very interesting.
Right?
And I think Deerfield, it looks like it's in Western Mass.
Yep,
and
Western.
It's near the Appalachian Trail, I think, or at least near mountains. So I'm sure he had that right there.
Yep. Yeah, he clearly, if it was like one of his, favorite things to do.
Yeah.
So he was really like well versed with the outdoors and stuff. So he went and attended Hope University, which is kind of where our story starts, over in Holland, Michigan, in a very small and conservative Christian campus.
I'm sorry, excuse us. We have a cat.
I have a very fat, adorable cat being very distractive, sitting on the notes, yes. So yes, it was a very small college, a Christian college, and he lived off of campus because he wasn't Christian.
He was a Satanist, wasn't he?
No, Stephen was not a Satanist. He just wasn't too Christian, I guess, enough for that campus. So anyway, his friends described him as being friendly and creative, outgoing, and sometimes eccentric, but also brilliant. So we know that Stephen is a very, very smart man, which I think doesn't help with the theories when you get to like about his disappearance, because it's like, was he just like calculating this entire thing himself because he was so smart? I don't know. Let's get on with it here. So that's what his friend described him as, and the dean of the college described him as weird. So anyway, in 1978, he was 24 years old, and just a couple of months from graduating college, He was studying in history with an emphasis on German language. He had previously studied abroad at the University of Freiburg in Germany. And while he was there, he had an affair with a beautiful professor.
Wow.
I know. He was like living the life, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on February 18th, 1978, Stephen was hanging around the campus and was like, hey guys, I'm going to go on a solo ski trip. And they were like, oh, you do that. You know, everybody didn't think it was weird at all, that he was just going to go on this solo ski trip aside Lake Michigan. So when nobody had heard from him the next day, you know, people were like, this is weird. But then it wasn't until the following day, February 20th, 1978, that two snowmobilers found a backpack and a set of skis and poles. They were placed neatly 8 inches apart facing Lake Michigan. And the footprints found went 20 yards in a trail of snow to the icy lake, and it stopped right at the edge of the ice.
Was the lake completely frozen?
It was. Yep. We're talking February.
So he could have walked across, but there were no footprints?
So there was an icy edge in the lake where it stopped, and then it was broken into the, you know, water, and his footprints went right to the edge of the ice.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't odd to his family and his friends that he would walk out on the ice, because that was just him. Apparently he would take that risk and walk on out. But there had been like tons of deaths in Lake Michigan prior. Like, I mean, when I was looking into the amount of people that have died in Lake Michigan, I was just like baffled. It's insane. But he was missing, and everybody, you know, was kind of assuming by the footprints that he had fallen in and drowned. You know, there was a big search. Helicopters, snowmobiles were involved, but there was no sign of Stephen.
This reminds me of The Lady in the Lake. Did you see that on the new Unsolved Mysteries?
No.
There's new Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix. Well, I think they're 2020, it says. But The Lady in the Lake was a woman who they found her car abandoned, and they ended up finding her in the lake way later. But it was Lake Michigan, I think.
So we're going to have to look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no sign of him at all. So he was just chalked up to dying. That they figured he died, you know, that he fell into the ice and he drowned. So Hope College actually awarded him a bachelor's degree in absentia, assuming that he died.
Huh.
I'm like, I never knew that they did that. You know, it's, I guess he was so close to graduating that they just gave him the degree. So this happened, I mean, his stuff was found southeastern side of the Michigan Triangle. So the Michigan Triangle, it takes up a section of the Lake Michigan, and it stretches from Manitowoc, Wisconsin, which, is that where?
Yes.
Yeah.
Making a Murderer
guy.
Yeah.
Can't think of his name.
Stephen.
Also Stephen. Another Stephen.
Too many Stephens.
Stop it. That's cool. So it stretches from Manitowoc, Wisconsin to Ludington, Michigan to Benton Harbor and back to Manitowoc. That's the triangle right there.
Okay.
Yeah. So there has been several, let's talk about the triangle real quick. Several mysteries and disappearances in this triangle, like shipwrecks, lots of shipwrecks that just are never found, plane crashes, UFO sightings. In 1891, a schooner named Thomas Hume set off for lumber with 7 crew members, never to return or any traces ever be found.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the missing ships, they don't really like surprise me, because, I mean,
there's a lot of
we're
weather
talking
there,
about
too.
a very, very deep lake. Like, I have it here, it's 922 feet max depth. It's like, we're not going to find the ships.
What's at the bottom of that?
Yeah. We're not going to find the ships, most
I bet
likely.
there's all sorts of UFOs at the bottom.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of these disappearances of the ships were just, you know, for whatever reason they sunk.
They sunk and
just went down, and they stayed down. The lake takes them. One of the lakes are known for that. I can't think of which one. One of the Great Lakes there. I want to say it's Lake Erie. I'm not sure though. Can't quote me on that one. That like the lake's like motto is like, it never gives you back when it takes you. Oh. That's like in my own words though.
Spooky.
You know? Yeah. So in 1921,
Lake Erie.
that's why it's all that. Just kidding. In 1921, the Rosabelle ship with 11 passengers disappeared and was found overturned in the lake, damaged by a collision, but there was no report of any other collision or discovery of any other wreck at all. My thing is, like, you're going to see something floating around from another boat if you got into a collision. April 23rd, 1937, Captain George R. Donner vanished from his cabin after leading his ship through icy waters. He went to rest, and 3 hours later, when the ship started nearing a port, a crew member found that his door was locked from the inside, but no response from Captain.
And he wasn't in there.
And he just wasn't in there. And, like, those windows are so small. Those little round windows, there's no way he just, like, jumped out the window to his death, you know? But they broke in. Yeah, they found no trace at all, no clues at all, and his disappearance still remains unsolved.
Interesting.
Yeah. This is just, you know, a few of the mysteries that I came up with here from Lake Michigan. But 1950, Northwest Flight 2501, carrying 58 people, crashed into Lake Michigan. No known cause for the crash and no plane or wreckage ever found. The pilot requested to descend to 2,500 because of a severe electrical storm, which was lashing the lake with high velocity winds when the plane disappeared from the radar. 2 hours after last communication with Flight 2501, 2 policemen reported seeing strange red lights hovering over the lake and lasting 10 minutes before disappearing. That one's weird because, like, for the pilot to call in that there's a severe electrical storm that was lashing the lake with high velocity winds, like, and then it just completely disappeared from the radar. That one is like a for me, you know? That's legit. Like,
and 900 feet deep water,
Right.
you'll never find. I mean, I wonder
True.
how long, how deep sonar can go. Is that what they use? Sonar? I always forget the right word.
For measuring the depths.
Yeah, if you're looking for something underwater.
Yeah, I think they use sonar.
Sonar. How deep can that go?
Not deep enough. I mean, we're over here trying to figure out space. And we have an ocean right here that is a whole nother world that we're not exploring.
I know, we're going to talk about that. We have to have an episode about that.
We do. Did you know, actually, in Lake Michigan, there's actually Stonehenge at
Underwater?
the bottom? Yeah, a Stonehenge. I didn't even talk about that in this episode, or plan to, but here we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe look it up and we can discuss that more.
Stonehenge in Lake Michigan?
Yep, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm confusing another Great Lake, but I'm pretty sure.
Stonehenge Lake structure found under Lake Michigan.
Stonehenge Lake structure. Yes, correction.
The stones are small and arranged in a shape instead of a circle. A V shape instead of a circle, excuse me. Oh, but there's a rock with like an elephant on it.
Wow.
See? That's cool.
That is wicked cool. Well, that's under there. And it's like, how deep is that? Clearly, if they can find that, I mean, that must obviously isn't at the max. Who knows? Maybe it is.
That's only 120 feet below.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's cool. I can only imagine if that's only 100 and, would you say 120?
120 feet.
120 feet. Imagine what's 922 feet below.
It says,
Unreal.
I'm sorry. It says the real underwater sensation lies 120 feet below neighboring Lake Huron, an area the size of a football field with dozens of 9,000-year-old artifacts and human-built stone structures that
So cool.
compromise
Like another
the most
Atlantis.
complex prehistoric hunting structure ever found beneath Great Lakes. And this is from discovermagazine.com.
Like another Atlantis.
Yeah.
Cool.
Interesting.
Really cool. Wow. So this one is a cool little thing too. A few months after Stephen went missing, there was a competitive sailing crew that passed through what I seem to believe is a vortex during a practice run on a calm early summer evening. After a sudden dramatic fall of fog and wind filling the mainsail from 2 opposing directions, 3 wooden ships took on a life of their own and started to perform synchronized 360-degree turns with nobody steering. That's freaking weird.
So is it just, I don't know if they have sails. Isn't that just the wind? I don't really know how sailboats work, but.
Yeah, but like 3 of them all to do that in that, you know.
Yeah, that's
weird. The wind was just coming from 2 opposing directions. Yeah, so it was just a very sudden fall of fog, and the wind came out of like nowhere. I don't know. There is speculation that it was like a vortex. Because like a vortex and a portal are two different things, right? Because like my theory about a lot of these disappearances is maybe there's like a portal somewhere in Lake Michigan that people are just entering and not able to come out.
Like the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah, because I mean, all the triangles are all mysteriously kind of linked, I think, like that. So maybe you literally go into one triangle portal and come out another portal triangle,
cool.
Right? I want to come out the Bermuda Triangle if I go into the Michigan.
Fall from the sky into the ocean.
That's crazy.
You wouldn't end up on like a beach in Bermuda.
I just want to end up on the beach in Bermuda. Yeah. I want to like literally just swim out of the ocean and be in Bermuda. That'd be so
we don't
cool.
know where Katie is. She's missing.
Well, we don't really know how these work. So like, who knows? Maybe the portal is just right there above water.
And not to go too off topic, but I think about that a lot with the missing 411. I haven't watched that because there's a lot of child disappearances and I can't stomach that stuff. But they talk a lot about just how many people go missing in national forests. And it makes me wonder if they're national forests for a reason, if they're protected lands because there's something there that we don't know. Yeah. Some kind of portal or dimension slip or something.
It's just cool to think about it like that.
Yeah.
Many, 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 many drownings in Lake Michigan, like the deadliest. There's just severe undercurrents and rip currents and like 5 to 6 feet waves that when they come in, they just like hit you and crash on you over and over, and you just don't stand a chance. You're just going to be pushed under every 5 seconds.
Wow.
People were saying. Yeah. So Lake Michigan has the most drownings, 150 deaths just since 2002. In 2022 alone, at least 84 deaths. So just this year, 84 deaths. Lake Michigan responsible for 45% of drownings in the Great Lakes this year. More than double the death toll of any other lake.
Wow.
So it really is that, it is that serious.
It's that mysterious.
Yep, with that max depth of 922 feet. Whew. The Great Lakes are so frigid that bodies do not decompose. And so the gases don't form in them and they stay submerged. Oh. So they really, if you drown, you're going to stay under water.
Wow.
Crazy. 1994, eastern shore of Lake Michigan in South Holland, to be exact, on March 8th of 1994, largest reported UFO sighting lasting 15 minutes. Now, we're talking, have you ever heard about this?
I don't think so, maybe.
Lake Michigan incident with 300 calls from civilians and police officers into 911 talking about these lights in the sky, different colors. Some were describing them to be like Christmas lights strung up there. And a lot of people were seeing like cylindrical or round vehicles in the sky. Vehicles? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, there was like a ton of reports. There were like 10 to 15 calls a day coming in, including that March 8th incident. But that one was the most widely viewed and reported. Like there was literally, I was listening to some of the cases on YouTube. Actually, there's a case number 62470 on YouTube. If you look it up, there's an audio recording, and I think it's like 23 minutes of a bunch of 911 calls reporting the sightings. It's really interesting.
What year was this again?
This happened in 1994.
Okay, so It wasn't SpaceX like
No,
last
it definitely
night.
wasn't SpaceX. In fact, like the police, there's on that recording, on that YouTube recording, again, case 62470, the Holland, Michigan flap of 1994 is what it's called on YouTube. That had the police actually reaching out to Michigan's like weather service, you know, and asking them if they saw anything on the radar. And at first they were like, oh, nothing out of the usual, like probably weren't paying attention, you know. And then the policeman's like, well, I'm only asking because we've got a ton of people calling in. And so eventually they do find this object, and the guy's like, this is like nothing I've ever seen before, you know. And it's cool to listen to that audio, like the actual audio of that.
And what was the official story? Did they say if it was Air Force or?
Nope, it was definitely not Air Force. It was concluded to not be of earthly origin.
Interesting.
Yeah. Really cool. So that, you know, that tells you a lot. That happened right there, Holland, Michigan. I mean, Holland, Michigan is Holland, Michigan where he was in college?
Yes, I think you said Holland, yeah.
Yeah, so yep, he was in, so literally that was right there, you know? So these sightings of these UFOs makes you wonder, you know? But let's get back to that.
Are there a lot of missing people? Did you read anything about that? Well, the boats and stuff on the
like
water.
tons
Yeah.
of people gone missing because they were on boats or in planes, you know, and they were never found. But not so much on the lake of missing. I think people are just assumed drowning if they don't come out of the lake, you know.
Okay.
Also, now this was a crazy thing. At the same time of Stephen's disappearance, across the lake, Chicago, famous serial killer John Wayne Gacy had just been exposed.
Yep.
So, you know, for those of you who don't know, which I'm sure most of you do, but Gacy was a suburban contractor who dressed up as a clown for parties during the day, but then lured dozens of men into his home to torture them and bury their bodies on his property. So sick. Like, he loved playing that clown role. I think there's a show on Netflix, I'm pretty sure, about like the John Wayne Gacy tapes. It's like a 4-part series, I think.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
He's the one who made the skin lamps and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Ugh.
I think actually. So. It's so hard because yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, gross.
No, I don't. He was just like this like regular father living with his family. And I don't know. Cause like if he made skin lamps, I'm pretty sure his wife would be like, what the hell is this?
His wife's like, what a beautiful skin lamp, honey.
Some of the old like fashion lamps, when I was a little girl, I used to think they were skin.
So I'm trying to Google what serial killer made
skin lamps.
And Google says nipple belt.
Okay. That was, wasn't it a nipple belt? And I think that was
I don't know.
The Texas Chainsaw guy, wasn't it?
I'm sorry, it was Ed Gein who made the skin lamps. Sorry, everybody.
Yes, that's what I mean. It's hard to, to keep them separate because they're all just so twisted and do the craziest stuff.
Now I want to know who made a nipple belt.
No, I'm pretty sure that was the Texas Chainsaw guy. Or maybe it was Ed Gein too.
Yep, it was Ed
Gein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gross.
He was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They all were. Okay. So needless to say, I mean, after finding 26 bodies underneath Gacy's house, there was a good possibility that Stephen could have been one of them, you know? Mm-hmm. So they ended up sending his dental records over to Chicago to see if he was among one of those victims. And luckily, the family, I'm sure, was happy to know he was not. But Gacy, 26 bodies in his crawl space under his house, like, that's ballsy.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
A lot of bodies.
There was more on his property too.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so he was not a victim, and so they cleared that whole theory. But now here is where our story turns, and we get the little twist. So May 5th, 1979, which is 15 months later, Stephen's dad, he just chilling on his couch, and the doorbell rings. And who is it? But it's his son, and he's alive, and he's well, but he's very confused. And he claims that he woke up in a field in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, over 700 miles east from where his belongings were found. Bizarre. We're talking 15 months later. In fact, where he was found, from where he was last seen, or his stuff was found, you could actually draw a perfect straight line on a map.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. That's cool, right?
Weird.
Mm-hmm. Even weirder, he woke up in completely unknown clothing, unknown shoes to him, a different backpack, glasses. Now, I'm not sure if it was eyeglasses, prescription, or sunglasses because a lot of places said different things. But I know he definitely had $40 in his pocket. And he also had a Wisconsin marathon shirt on. On him. I don't know if he was wearing it or if it was in his bag, but this also is crazy. There was maps and like hitchhiking signs that he had traveled widely through Sacramento, San Francisco, Reno, Chicago, and Utah, but he had absolutely no memory of the past 15 months. And I guess he didn't have any idea what date it was until he stumbled over to a little variety store and got a local newspaper.
So, I'm sorry, you said he had maps of those locations and hitchhiking signs saying where he was going?
Yeah, like when I see like hitchhiking, like when I was reading about hitchhiking signs, I think it just meant like there was signs to him that he was hitchhiking. Like he had been hitchhiking probably on the maps. Like,
I see.
he had written on the maps or something, but there was some kind of sort of sign that he was hitchhiking.
I see.
Interesting, right?
So he went missing from the Lake Michigan area.
Yes.
And then somehow
15 months later.
Still ended up in Pittsfield, a straight exact line across the map.
Exactly right across the map, 700 miles east from where he was.
Wow.
Just woke up in a field.
Do we know if the latitude and longitude was matched up? Just curious.
I don't know.
Like if it was a straight line, if what is that, the longitude? Yeah, the longitude would be the same. Be interesting to find out.
Yeah, we could definitely look into that. I mean...
And Pittsfield is close to where he was originally from. So were his parents still in Deerfield?
Pittsfield was, I want to say 40 miles from where he was originally from.
Yeah.
I think if you look up
you're right.
Pittsfield from, 40 miles away from Deerfield.
Now, I don't know if you're going to get into it, but isn't there a lot of UFO sightings in that area?
Yes.
Okay. In Pittsfield or the surrounding towns? I think Lenox, just south, maybe?
No, I wasn't going to get into that actually. I have not done any research on UFO sightings in Pittsfield.
Okay, it rings a bell because that's where I go hiking, and somewhere over there in one of those towns, there's a tourist attraction over there that you can stop at, and it's something to do with UFOs. I haven't looked into it.
Wow.
But it's very close by to Pittsfield. I know
I'd love to go and visit that.
Yeah, we should.
We should.
Hopefully we'll get abducted.
Let's cross our fingers.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, so look into that and see if there's any, sightings or just a lot of UFO sightings in that area. That's a really good question.
Actually, it says Netflix reboots Unsolved Mysteries featuring Pittsfield aliens.
Wow, girl. In
2020 it came out.
Well, great job. Great job.
Who, me or Unsolved Mysteries?
Both of you. But yeah, so that is extremely interesting. The fact that there's definitely some kind of history there.
Okay, I'm sorry to keep going with this, but it's called the Tom Reed UFO Memorial Park, and it's in Sheffield, Mass. I can't tell from the map exactly how many miles it is, but it's just south of Pittsfield.
Wow.
So the area is definitely known for UFO activity for sure.
So cool. That just definitely makes me lean more towards that theory.
Well, I mean, it's habitated, obviously. People live out there, but it's very, very woodsy. It's part of the Appalachian Trail, so it's miles and miles of woods.
Right. So it would be a good place.
Yeah.
So yeah, he just had absolutely no idea that like what had happened and like what amount of time had really passed. Like he couldn't, believe it. But when he had realized where he was, I guess he was about 20 miles away from Great Barrington.
Yep.
And that is where his aunt lived. So it's not exactly clear how he got there, but I'm assuming he probably hitched a ride or, used his $40 in his pocket and, called a taxi or something and got himself a ride over to his aunt's. And then she brought him to go and, go back and reunite with his family in South Deerfield.
So he woke up in a field.
Yep.
And did he immediately know where he was? Did he know who he was?
He knew who he was.
Okay.
He actually felt of like complete and sound mind. He had he just could not remember anything. He did have memory of everything up to his disappearance.
Okay.
He did. Yeah. So in an interview, once he was home, he didn't do a lot of interviews. He only did, I think, maybe a couple or maybe even just one. But he said, I feel like I've done a lot of running. Weird, right? Mm-hmm. He just
Especially
felt,
with that shirt.
Yeah, it just felt to him like he had done a lot of running. Do you think his calf muscles were super sore and, how do you feel like you've done a lot of running?
Yeah, you'd be sore.
Yeah,
you might have shin splints.
Sore.
And he had that shirt.
Right, that shirt is
yeah,
telltale.
Is there any evidence of him running that marathon?
So that's a really interesting point. Now, there is no record of him running that marathon with his name on that record, but some people believe that if he really was not like right, or he was in this like delusional like state, that maybe, or even if this was intentional, that he might have wrote himself in as somebody else.
Okay.
I believe there was only one participant in that marathon at that time that was from like Tokyo, which is just everybody else was like local. And there was just like one participant that wasn't. So that stood out. I don't remember the name that it was listed as, but it was very interesting. I thought into that real quick too.
So the person from Tokyo, was that the one person they couldn't identify because he was from so far away, supposedly?
There was a name. But you know,
back then they didn't have the internet, so they couldn't.
They
Google.
weren't verifying any kind of right. You
were.
Probably just signed a sheet, you know, when you got there.
Right.
So if he was intentionally running off, he was smart enough to not have any trail, I'm sure, you know. But why would you come back and, you know, not, you know, it doesn't make sense that he would run off because, I mean, well, let's get to the end first, right? Because then we can talk about our theories.
Yeah, I have a theory.
Good. I love that. So felt like he did a lot of running. He remembered everything right up to his disappearance. He said the last thing that he remembered was that he felt really cold and scared. That was the last thing he could remember. I mean, he was in a ski trail. He doesn't remember getting hurt. He doesn't remember, you know, he just remembers being cold and scared. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But he believed that his blackout could have been from exhaustion and exposure. And he agreed to see a medical doctor, but he refused to see a psychiatrist. He insisted that he had a healthy frame of mind when he set off on his ski trip and that he still did. He still was in the right frame of mind. So he was just really adamant that he did not want anything to do with talking to a psychiatrist. I mean, that could be for a couple of reasons. Maybe he just didn't want to be labeled, have that label on him, you know? Maybe he didn't want to be diagnosed with that, with any kind of mental disorder. Maybe he thought maybe he had it and he was afraid and he didn't want to have that confrontation with the medical professional in psychiatry.
Back then, it was very taboo to have any kind of mental illness.
That's true.
And this kind of ties into my theory, I think.
I like that. So he did end up saying in a report that he told reporters that he wanted to retrace his steps, but we don't know if he ever did. We just don't know. But for decades, he's refused to be interviewed. He won't even respond back to anybody reaching out to him. He just won't. But he did write a book.
I was going to say, I think I remember that. Yes.
Yes. But right now, he's actually a successful psychologist.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to say he's in Seattle. I don't know why. Can you Google it? I think it's Seattle, Washington that he's at. Still working. I went to a website and I looked at everything that he, you know, all his specialties.
Yeah, it says Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. But more specifically,
he wrote a book called Mathematical Foundations of Existence.
Yeah.
Is that Gödel? Gödel, Quantum, God, and Beyond? That's really interesting.
Yeah, so mathematical foundations of existence, Gödel, Quantum, God, and Beyond. And the book's about inconsistencies and incompleteness of our understanding of reality.
Wow.
Yeah, deep, right?
I want to read his book.
Me too. I don't know why I haven't over the past week.
Yeah.
You can get it on Kindle.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's cool. So, but then the next year, he actually co-authored a book with a guy named Dylan James Quarles, who turns out to be a friend of his. Like, I think up 6 years before he disappeared, he was friends with this guy. And so they actually co-wrote a book, and it's called The Quantum Biography of Stephen Kubacki, and it tells supposedly the whole entire true story of his disappearance, starting from, you know, his whole life, his whole childhood, up into his disappearance, and then after. So it's definitely probably some good reads, but it really makes you wonder. You know, it does. It makes you wonder. Now, I know that in the book that he co-authored, the biography, that one, he actually talks about alternate time frames or timelines.
Okay.
Yeah. So in that book, he talks about alternate timelines and Stephen's own assertion that our universe is at best incomplete and at worst inconsistent. So that's interesting too. So yeah, both of those books are interesting. We can talk about theories now.
Okay.
I mean, that's the story. So obviously UFO alien abduction is number one on and then I think like some people even talk about like thinking it was like a divine intervention for him.
So if he's writing these books about reality being incomplete or our universe being incomplete, is this something that he intentionally triggered? Was he able to somehow, I don't know, skip a timeline or slip dimensions and come back or something? And if so, does he remember it? Does he remember thinking that prior to the disappearance? Is this something that he did to trigger it, or?
Yeah, like does he really remember like, what happened, but he for some reason doesn't want to release. Maybe because if he did,
Well, they'd kill him.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't already if he's writing books like that, but I'm very curious, so we'll have to read that and come back.
We definitely should. We should do a part 2 to this after we read that, just to kind of give, listeners a better idea.
Okay. And my first theory, which maybe you have written down, but it reminds me of Sybil. Sybil had multiple personalities.
There is a theory about the personality associative disorder.
So, and I know I'm going to use the wrong term, but with multiple personality disorder, I think it's DID now is what they call it. But if you have DID, or at least with Sybil, I remember when I read Sybil, she would black out when she switched personalities long term. And one of the things that happened to her was, I think she was I don't know, she must have been 9 or 10 years old or something. She switched personalities for almost an entire school year, and she couldn't remember the math that she learned for that year. So the next year in school, as a new personality, she had no memory of it.
Wow.
So that makes me wonder if he had something like that. I just quickly looked up if people with DID know that they have it, and it does say that they can be aware that they have multiple personalities. So that would make sense why he might not want to go to see a psychologist. And
that makes sense at maybe why he continued his education to be a psychologist. Maybe he was trying to understand his own head, and help others with the same kind of. That's a wicked good theory. Yeah. Like I'm like leaning towards that just as much as I am leaning towards UFOs. I mean, you know me, I just love everything aliens. I want aliens to be the answer to everything.
Yeah, I do too.
But I mean, there is, like you said, there is a lot of now knowing in Pittsfield,
yes.
Now knowing that there is some kind of, correlation. That's interesting. That even, like I said, kind of persuades me a little even more. It's just so bizarre. Like why, the whole theory that he did this on purpose, like why? Why would he show up with all this stuff and claim that he didn't, know it was his, and why the big story, I mean,
and I'm sorry, just to go back a little bit, the other thing I was going to say too is that if the multiple personality switch at that point that caused the blackout was caused by a traumatic experience, like the last thing he remembers is being cold and scared, could that have triggered something in his brain to switch personalities? And because your brain does that, it blocks the trauma. Of what you're going through so that you don't have to deal with that. I think that's what DID does to protect you. So I don't know. He was scared.
Yeah. He was super scared, and he was exposed to the elements, and, maybe.
But then again, why is his stuff just left behind?
Right. Like, and the tracks leading to the ice edge. I mean, it was clearly his boots. And
no other prints.
No other prints around, just his. And with the way the skis were even placed, like it wasn't like he was, running and in a panic and a rush or something. It was like they were just put so neatly facing the lake, which some people speculate it's obvious he planned it because
he saw something.
Yeah, he saw something. He walked out to the lake, onto the ice like he had done before and walked right up to the edge. And then
got abducted.
Why do we see
Now
no
I'm
other?
thinking he was abducted.
Yeah, right? Because of those footprints.
Right.
But again, super smart man. Obviously going to go on to be a psychologist. Like he already knows probably how to, manipulate the mind into thinking a different way. Maybe it was set up to be that way for a reason.
Did he make a lot of money from these books?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't even see them anywhere for sale as a hardcover. I'm only seeing Kindle for at least the one that he wrote himself.
There was no real monetary gain, and he didn't do it for fame because he doesn't even want to be interviewed.
Right. So no, he definitely doesn't want to be interviewed. No. Right. So you have a really interesting theory about the whole multiple personality or the dissociative personality thing. I think that's a really good, you're onto something there. I kind of was thinking the fact that he had previously, went to Germany and he had that affair with that professor. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure back then, especially with like a Christian family and a Christian school, if he was to say, get this woman pregnant while he was studying abroad, right? Now, this theory may be a little far-fetched, but what do you think about the fact that he would be, obviously that's a taboo thing. It's out of wedlock back mm-hmm. then, right? And with the Christianity, I'm sure it wouldn't have been an easy, right? So he comes home, he almost finishes. And do you think he made this big elaborate thing to innocently be able to just kind of have a new life over there for a little while and spend some time with his kid? But then how would you just be all right, I know you for a few months and I'm leaving. I don't know.
Do we know how long
he studied abroad?
How long before the disappearance, when he came home, how long was it? Was she pregnant and he left when she had the baby? Is that what happened?
There is no evidence of her being pregnant.
Oh, I see.
I'm just coming up with some kind of theory. Maybe there was a reason to go back to Germany, but he didn't want to be truthful about that reason. So he was there for the birth, maybe say, or I don't know. That's just thinking.
And it didn't work out or whatever.
And then he wanted to come back to his other life. And then he's got
no excuse because...
Right. And it's how do you come back? Because you just had... I don't know.
He did a lot of running in Germany.
And it really isn't clear on how close he was with his parents either. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I know that they kind of, didn't see eye to eye a lot before he went to college. He earned a scholarship to a prestigious school in Deerfield, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably where they expected him to go, but he just up and went to Michigan. That itself is, to me, kind of why? Did he already have some kind of alien connection?
Maybe.
Did he already? He was always in the woods, he was always out there. And especially if he was hiking in those areas where we know now that there has been a lot of sightings, mm-hmm. And did he plan this? Did he have it planned? But he wanted to go on a solo trip. It's not unlike him to go on a solo trip, but maybe it was solo for a reason.
I remember another story of an abduction or thought to be abduction that happened on the Cape. Mm. And it was a guy, we can talk about it another time, but it was a guy who was taking a bus to the Air Force base on the Cape. And he got off the bus and was waiting for somebody to come get him to take him to the base. And he looked up and he saw a bright light coming at him. And then he woke up somewhere else and doesn't remember
anything in the middle.
And
yep.
The people from the base, I don't know if it's a sergeant, I don't know anything about the military, but whoever was coming to get him from the base went there, and he was AWOL and all this because they went there and waited for him at the bus station. He never came. And he insisted that he was there, but then something happened and he lost his memory. So wow. It's interesting. And he did come back, but I don't remember where he woke up or anything, but it's similar. So it very well could be an abduction. Is there any other theories?
I wonder if a lot of abductions are this way. I wonder if they just don't have any memory, Men in Black.
You wouldn't know.
Take your memory away.
You would have no idea. It's not even it's something you're hiding because you just don't know. Right. Imagine how scary that must be to wake up in a field somewhere and have no freaking clue where you are.
And in different clothes and money in your pocket. And you're how did I get this money?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So if he's abducted, though, the aliens aren't giving him $40.
No,
they're not having him run a marathon.
Only thing I could think is No, they're definitely not. That's another thing. It's like, only thing I could think is like, unless they knew that was human money and he had it on him
There's
originally
no way.
in his pocket,
There's no benefit to.
and they sent him back with it so he wouldn't be asked out. I don't think so either.
No, because he doesn't remember anyway, so
I know,
it doesn't matter.
I agree with that. Like, why would there be money in his pocket? Unless the aliens just took pants off somebody, they didn't freaking check the pockets, and they just put them back on someone else.
Dressed them in someone else's clothes.
Yeah, they have all, they have this huge closet of human clothes, and they're just like, I need a size 38, like, so.
It's possible.
I mean, it's definitely possible. So.
Are there other theories?
It's just those mostly that, like, he intentionally did this to just kind of start a new life somewhere and it didn't work out, and then I kind of just branched off of that with the whole, like, just thinking about him having the affair.
Yeah, the possibilities.
Right. So that's something. And then obviously the UFO abduction, I definitely heard people talking about the multiple personality, like dissociative theory as well, but that's pretty much it. I mean, if anybody has their own theory on this case, we would love to know about it. So let us know in the comments what you think happened to Stephen Kubacki, please.
Yes, please. And thank you for everybody who's supported us so far.
Yeah, because we're brand new.
Yeah, so we appreciate it. And whatever you listen on, YouTube, Spotify, I think we're on Pandora, Google Podcasts. If you could leave us a review. And yeah, that would be great.
Yep, and we look forward to lots of more mysterious content to come.
Yes, and next week it's my turn to tell a spooky tale.
That's how we're going to do it for the most part. We're going to alternate. And sometimes we'll probably have a week if they're both short stories. We'll put them together.
Yeah, I have a couple good short ones too, so.
Yeah. Okay, guys, sorry about last week. I just wanted to let you know, I definitely had a feeling that aircrafts did not dump waste out over the sky, over different communities, but I didn't research it. I just took other people's word for it. And when I did a quick Google search after the fact, I realized, no, they do not do that. In fact, if ever there's any blue ice to be found, it was due to a leak. So it's not like there is, these airlines purposely dumping human waste.
Yeah, but it's dyed blue so
it's
that
dyed blue if there's a leak.
If there's a leak.
Correct.
Yeah, so
you
weren't wrong.
Well, I just, I was in the last episode, I mentioned that it sounded crazy to me that I didn't think that could happen, but that was a lesson learned, make sure you look into every little thing if it doesn't sound right. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. But yeah, bear with us. And we look forward to the next episode. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be fun. Do we give them like a idea of what the next episode is going to be, or should we not, just in case we want to change it on them?
Yeah. We won't tell them. We'll keep it secret, a spooky secret between friends.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening today.
Thank you so much for your support, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Keep it mysterious.
Bye.
Bye.